privy in some of these other meetings, so you were referring to stuff on my, so it's kind of choppy, you know? Yeah.
And over there. These should be for the wing. Come on, over here.
Second bill, please.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I'll be in touch. Once I try to make sense, and then.
Guys, sit in the blue chairs.
Where are the cameras? Oh. Yeah. One there. Hope it gets my good side.
Still a bunch of people out there? What's up, man? Hey, go down the front, okay?
Yes, we stand here. I stand here. And then they stand here.
What's going on? Yes, please.
Yep. Great. It's great to be back. It's great to be back.
Everybody, please rise for the salute to the flag. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Samaras?
Here.
Mr. Dakota?
Here.
Ms. Doherty?
Here.
Mr. Hoey?
Here.
Mr. Lay?
Here.
Miss Martin? Mr. Mr. Nutter?
Here.
There was a voice off in the distance.
Seven
TV
present.
audience.
6 in the chamber.
All right. The first order of business is Spotlight and Excellence for the Catherine Stocklosa Knowledge Bowl Competition for 2019. Madam Superintendent?
It is an honor to look out into this audience tonight and see our Knowledge Bowl champions for 2019, our Wang School students. Congratulations. And we're so happy to have you all here to be able to honor you, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Rochelot to share who our students are and all the amazing things they've accomplished.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. I wanted to thank, first of all, the school committee for their support of the Knowledge Bowl. This was our 31st year, started back in 1988. Lowell has a long history and tradition of a very successful Knowledge Bowl. And it really is one of the jewels in the crown of Lowell Public Schools. I think it really serves to showcase the good work of our students, their families, and especially our faculty, our staff that work so very hard with our students. And these students tonight represent some of our best and brightest, and we're very proud of all of them. So at the Knowledge Bowl, what we do is we bring together teams from all 9 middle schools, teams of 10 students, to represent their school in the bowl. And we meet for 7 nights over the course of the month of March. And I want to thank all the school committee members who served as judges and came out to support our students. It's a very exciting match that tests students on their abilities for mathematics, literature, science, current events, and they also have to be very proficient up in front of the stage and using their buzzers. So after a very hard-won match, we were very proud to see that the Wang School prevailed this year. I also want to recognize the Daly School, who took 2nd place, and the STEM Academy, which is a team of 5th to 7th graders, took 3rd place this year. So I really would love to take the opportunity to introduce you to Jelaine Roy and to Karen Cole, who are the coaches for the Wang School Knowledge Bowl team, who will then, and to Matt Stahl, if Matt Stahl could come up and introduce us as well, we'll introduce you to the students.
So thank you, everybody, for taking a little time to honor the amazing team that you're going to meet in a second. It's a pleasure watching them every round. We're going to get to watch them one more round, and once I get the details together, I'll certainly get it out to you guys. But this team is actually going to play against a team of my teachers and a team of parents at our school, so they've got one more chance to defend their crown, and I think teachers are a little bit nervous right now. I think they're at home studying, to be honest. So they did an amazing job, and you're going to get to meet the kids, but this wouldn't be possible without the 2 women I'm going to introduce to you who dedicate their time, and they just really work hard with the students. Before I introduce them, I also want to say a special thank you to Carolyn for all the work she does for Knowledge Bowl, because it's outstanding, and we appreciate it every year. So I'll get out of the way, and without further ado, I'll give you the coaches, and that's Jolaine Roy and Karen Cole.
Good evening, and thank you for welcoming us here tonight. I'm Jolaine Roy.
And I'm Karen Cole.
And it is an honor to introduce to you the Wang 2019 Knowledge Bowl team. Curtis Shantabun, Audrey DiLorenzo, Avery Doobie, Sophia Gikas, Kiran Mahajan, Manav Patel, Alden Reisbeck, Enrique Rodolis, Teddy Steinberg, Nina Wolf, and our dedicated alternate, Ryu Mom. And at this point, I'd like to introduce to you one of our team members who is actually our student team manager, and he has a few words to share with you. Curtis Shantabun.
First off, I would like to thank our coaches. They've done so much for us the past couple months since tryouts. Over the course since October, we have all become a family. We all stick up for each other. We all laugh together. We eat together. We have our jokes together. And when our team captain, Nina, was sick during semifinals, everyone stepped up and played a role to keep our team going. We had some ups and downs, some mini arguments, but then we all had our very funny jokes where we actually created our own species called a quackosaurus. It's a hybrid between a duck and a dinosaur. So we're very proud to be here and to represent all of our Lowell school students, because we are very proud that we got to go against daily and STEM, and STEM is 5th grade through 7th grade, which is fantastic because we're going against a bunch of younger kids, but they played a great game. And so I'd like to thank.
No, as a school committee, we're very proud of you. I mean, all of you represent this system so well. This is what makes what we do worthwhile. Would you mind coming up to have a picture with the school committee? Okay, yes.
Mayor,
Excuse me, Mr. Hoey?
can we have a few words, please? Thank
Sure.
you.
I'm sorry. Just
I thought this Stocklosa Bowl this year was amazing. One of the best matches of the whole thing. I thought the Wang was untouchable, and I'll predict, like I predict Lowell High baseball is going to win a state title. I think they're going to win the regional title. Believe me, that's how good this team is. The second place team, though, shows me nothing but sportsmanship. STEM, yep, what can I say? Young team that did real well. But I was really impressed with that match between the Pine School, the STEM, and I believe it was the Robinson. I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. But it turned into a tie at the last second, and it was an amazing match. And then the other team that's not being mentioned to me is the Robinson. They showed up this year all in white shirts, all in red ties, and it's almost like it was the daily too. So we had some tremendous teams in this year, and I think Kay Stocklosa would be the happiest woman on the planet for these children. And I'm pretty sure Kay never had children. And sometimes people would say that about her. Oh, Kay don't have children. Well, let me tell you, Kay loves all ears, and she's probably spreading the luck to you, because you are going to win the regional Knowledge Bowl. So congratulations, and thank you for the time, Mayor.
Mr. Hoey, in regard to Mrs. Stocklosa, she would say that the children of Lowell were her children. And she said that many times. And Andy? Mr. Dakota?
We look so much alike, Jerry. I would like to add that several of these members of the Wang team were also in ELF, so between the practicing for the Knowledge Bowl and getting ready for the show, kudos to you for that extra effort all around. So again, and ELF was just amazing. It was great. Great.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just quickly, I'd like to add one thing. As much as I'm so proud of you guys and you did a great job, I'd just like to say that every student who participates in the Knowledge Bowl is a winner. You are all peer leaders for your schools and for our community, and I again want to thank your coaches for your service. I think it's a great program, but thank you.
So if the team and the teachers could come up in front of the podium, and the school committee in the back. Yeah. All right, thank you. The next, we also have a Spotlight in Excellence, the Generation Citizen Civic Day. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, I'll ask Assistant Superintendent Ms. Desmond to share with you that spotlight, and I think we have some special guests here as well, so we're excited to learn about all that you've accomplished.
Thank you. On December 4th, 2018, at the Massachusetts State House, we had a Generation Citizen Civic Day, and our 8th graders, half of our 8th graders were representing the schools that they attend on that day, and we received several awards. And I'm going to ask our coordinator of Science and Social Studies, Ms. Cohn, to come up and introduce Mr. Neagle and talk a little bit about Generation Citizen and why we have adopted it for 8th grade civics this year.
Good evening. I will first introduce Mr. Nagel from the Pine School, who is our lead Generation Citizen teacher. Mr. Nagel has worked in this program for a couple of years and piloted it and really became a champion for us throughout the district. As a response to the revised state standards in history and social studies, civics is a huge component that we wanted to bring forward as soon as possible. And with the help of Mr. Nagel and his leadership, we were able to bring Generation Citizen to all 8th grade students in the district. This follows along with a nice vertical piece, because Lowell High School also has been working with Generation Citizen for a few years. And so we have a nice pathway for our students to take that civic education into the high school. So I'll have Mr. Nagel come up and speak more.
Thank you very much. So again, my name is Mike Nagel. I'm a social studies teacher at Pine Arts. And I work closely with Rob DeLosa from Lowell High School and Marty to try to get this off the ground in the middle schools. We have Generation Citizen partnership with this organization. It's gone for about 4 years now, but we're really ramping up with the new standards, as Marty mentioned. So as I'm sure all of you know, the history and social science frameworks changed last summer. And Governor Baker also has a requirement in there that all public schools will offer an action civics or a civics project for students. And so we really ran with it this year. We have been building for a few years, but in December we had schools, had about half of our middle schools go, and Lowell took home 3 out of the 7 awards. It's a statewide recognition program, and we have another round of schools going next month for the spring season. So pretty incredible. So I would like to actually just pass it off. Maybe Rob could say a couple of things about Lowell High School. Altogether, we have 17 teachers across 9 schools with about 1,000 students working on civics projects. Rob?
The first thing I'd like to do is to recognize that Mike is the 2018 Don Salvucci Massachusetts Council for the Social Studies State Award winner for civics. So he is the best civics teacher in the state, recognized so, and he is here from Lowell. We began this program starting in 2015 at the high school. Thalia Schlesinger-Songus got in touch with our head of school then, Brian Martin, and asked that we look into it. We piloted it in the fall of that year, and we've been running with it since. The middle schools have been working with it as well. And one of the things that I'll note about Generation Citizen, which is an action-oriented civics program that seeks to have all of its students engage in the community to become active citizens and to look to be responsible for and to solve local problems. And so this is something that promotes equity across the community in terms of people seeing their place as active participants both in the community and government. So this is a critical program for us. We've gone to scale. Lowell has one of the largest programs, not just in the Commonwealth, but in the country. And I'll also note that because Lowell has run with it, as Mike said, numerous other programs across the state have started because they've seen that it works well with Lowell, and other, especially gateway districts, have joined in as well. One of the other things I'll note quickly about Generation Citizen is that they have worked with us to shape their program both statewide and nationally on the basis of their experience in Lowell. So we have been partners with them, they've been partners with us, and we've both benefited as a result of that. Now, we've had students, from the very first time that we went to the State House for Civics in December 2015, and Bienvenue's class brought back an award at that point, and it got to the point where it's an expectation that Lowell will bring back many awards, including the General State Award. One teacher turned to me about a year and a half ago and said, "You guys win all the awards. You gotta lay down." You know, but we also will have, I think, 60 sections, something like that, that will be doing these projects next year. So you will be hearing from many students, and we'll be working with you to figure out the logistics. I'd like to introduce two of our high school students, Sophia Alsamarai and Julian Viviescas. Along with their success at the State House, our students have held both state level and national level representations with Generation Citizen, talking not only to national audiences, but also to state audiences, including at the DESE. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to them to tell you about the program.
First of all, thank you so much for having us here. So my name is Julian. I'm a senior at Lowell High School. I'm part of what it's called the Student Leadership Board of Generation Citizen, which is conformed of about 14 students across the nation. And I'm one of the 3 co-chairs of the program. We look to help like young people to be encouraged for civics and to be able to get a better action civics education across the country. As part of my project about 2 years ago, I made a gun buyback with my class, an ELL class, where we collected 39 guns out of the streets of Lowell.
Thank you so much. My name is Safi Al-Samurai. I'm a senior at Lowell High School. I was the students with Generation Citizen last year, and I work with, in class, we decided to create a change in our community, and the main focus was gun violence and school shootings. So we decided to help passing a bill, the Red Flag Bill, H 3610, which is allow teacher, doctor, or parents to petition a judge and prevent a person from getting a gun if it's dangerous to the community. And last July, the bill was signed and became a law by the State House. And now, currently, I'm in the SLB, that, as Julian mentioned, it's 14 students from all around the nation. We believe that making change in the community is the most important thing, and because we are the future, and we need to make change to make a better future for us. Thank you.
We'll just take a minute each, maybe for each of the winning groups from December, if we could. I'd like to invite the students up from the Butler just to take a minute and share their project.
Hi, thank you for having us. We're from the Butler Middle School. My name is Nevaeh Anais Jimenez, and these are my classmates.
My name is Ty Stella. My name is Daniel Gutierrez.
And for Generation Citizens Day, we chose human trafficking as our topic. We chose that because we felt that it was a very important issue, and it's very serious, and it does happen a lot.
Our goal was to bring awareness, and our goal was also to create some type of solution that could help people. We chose trying to implement call boxes similar to the ones in UMass Lowell, and right now we are still planning and hope to get there soon. Thank you.
I'd like to invite the morning group from the Pine up. And this group worked on, there's a range of topics. The students decide what they want to work on, but this group worked on vaping, youth vaping.
Hi, we just want to say thank you so much for having here. We are extremely excited to be here. I'm Hannah Lally, and these are my classmates, Toledo D'Amatos, Alex Gonzalez, and Olivia Cruz.
So we chose to focus on the issue of teen vaping because it's a current growing epidemic, one in which we plan to stop. And one of the ways we tried to do that was to get House Bill 3998 enacted relative to the taxation of electronic smoking devices passed for a floor vote. And unfortunately, we just recently found out that the bill is unfortunately dead. And due to that, a new bill was added that's similar to that, and we plan to follow through with our plan, and hopefully soon enough our school will have enough programs for students to know fully about vaping. Thank you.
And just by coincidence, the other Pine group focused on vaping, but they had a different angle, and they have some exciting news to share. Could we bring up the other board? So this is a different class.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Madison Scott. I'm Alexia Santos. And behind us are our classmates, Ava Sullivan and Ashley Anderson. And we were Alexia and I were part of our class's presentation group at the State House. And our class and the other class, both, as Mr. Nagel mentioned, we both coincidentally picked teen vaping, but we couldn't just stop there. We had to narrow our topic down even more, and we decided on trying to make flavored vaping products only available in smoke shops where only people over the age of 18 can enter. Alexia, a few other classmates, and I contacted the state representatives from Lowell via emails and phone calls, and Representative David Nagel was very interested in working with us.
As a result of figuring out what we're going to do, we made PSAs, and we also had a meeting with our principal to go to younger classrooms in our school, because we're a K through 8 school. So we wanted to inform them about what teen vaping can do to you. So we made a petition, and we got 150 plus signatures on it. So that was what we did in action to figure out ways to spread the word about this.
And Mr. Nagel's, not him, legal team are drafting a bill for us, and the bill number is House Bill 1484, and we're hoping to get that in session this term. Thank you.
And the last group I'd like to highlight, they're actually not here with us tonight, but another group from Lowell High School won an award in December, and that was the Grassroots Award, and their focus was on transportation for high school students. So the way it works is students explore issues, and then they build consensus around one, and then they start doing research and have guest speakers, and this is where we end up 10 weeks later. So thank you.
So then, Mr. Dakota.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to everybody. Fabulous job. I congratulate yous all. But Mr. Nagel, I have to say, it's staff like you that makes me proud to be on a school committee. I've been watching you. I've been watching you for a few years now, and I remember you had kids interviewing all the candidates that are running for school committee, and I think you did the city council. But it's so important what you're doing, bringing back history and civics. So again, Mr. Nagel, thanks a lot, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd also like to state the same thing to all of you. I think it's a tremendous program that sparks interest in politics. There's an old politician who said years and years and years ago that all politics is local. That means just exactly what you kids were doing in your projects, getting that community involvement in getting things done at the community level, because that's how it starts, and it just blossoms from there. So you've learned a tremendous life lesson in this short period of time. So it's wonderful, and I give kudos to your staff, to all the staff that have been working with you, and the great work that all of you did, all you students did. So again, congratulations.
No, and to the staff and on behalf of the school committee, I think what impresses me the most is the sophistication level of your projects. I mean, they really are, they're current, and they're projects that we have to understand, and to have it at your level it's wonderful. I mean, so it speaks well for the future, it bodes well. Thank you very much for this presentation. I don't know if we could do a picture with everybody. I mean, the thing is, you know, people say, you know, why do you want the pictures? Because the thing is, you're impressive. I mean, how do you think can we do this? What do you yeah. Yeah, just, yeah. Yeah. Come on, everybody.
I'll go like beside him, I guess.
Just your picture.
I'll take a picture.
Stay with
Slip right through. Who was there? Oh, sorry. Smile. Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Hoey, thank you.
Hey, I gotta fly because I got kids with me. I'll show you my flag motion.
I said, I gotta go.
Okay. All right, we need to resume the meeting, please.
Don't get into that.
I know we took some extra time out of our regular meeting, but I think it's worthwhile. They deserve those accolades. So thank you for participating in this process. All right, next we have a motion to accept and place on file the minutes of the March 20th, 2019 meeting of the Lowell School Committee. Need a motion to accept by School Committee Person Doherty, seconded by Mr. Dakota. And now we have permission to enter, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, if the committee has any questions relative to the items, answer those.
Ms. Doherty?
I'm sorry, I noticed that 19,000 for transportation to students to Everett. Could you just explain to me again? These are homeless students who are from Everett originally and live in Lowell now? Through you to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance.
If we have students that now live in a different city or go to we have to transport them back and forth. We may have fiscal responsibility for students. Is that your question?
I'm just trying to understand. I know that we're transporting students from Lowell to Everett. Mm-hmm. And the cost has just gone up $19,000. So I'm trying to understand, are those students originally attended Everett Public Schools and now they live in Lowell because they're homeless? I'm just trying to understand. I know this is an ongoing cost that...
I'm not familiar with the exact kids that we're referring to. I know that we add kids constantly. These students are going from Lowell to Everett, I thought, right? Mm-hmm. These kids are being transported. I can look into it and give you an update on the exact students, but that is one example of what you just said about kids going to a different district. I'm not familiar with the exact children that are in there.
Any further discussion? I need a motion to approve the permission to enter by Mr. Dakota, seconded by Mr. Hoey.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next, we have memorials. First is Morris Moser, father of data analyst Kim Liu, and father-in-law of Lowell High School scheduler Mark Liu. Then John O'Brien, father of Sharon Legassi, general manager of food and nutrition. Donald McQueen, father of Mary Lou McKenzie, Wayne School teacher. Gerald McMahon, friend of Bob Hoey and Lowell High School graduate. And Betty Kenny, Georgia, Betty Kenny, retired Lowell High School math, it says math teacher, but she was a very well-known science teacher, one of the best ever. And I'd like to have the chambers darkened, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
have a minute, please. Number one, I'm so sorry, I gotta say this, the Hickey family, our last meeting, I didn't realize Larry Hickey died. He was a great friend of mine, 63 years old, always calling me up about school issues, but he's known as Uncle Larry. He left 2 children behind, a 7th grader and a 12th grader in our system. So, sorry for your loss to the Hickey family, and I'm sorry I didn't mention something about Larry at the last meeting. And the last thing, thank you, Mayor, for the time.
Good man. No.
Yeah, and they called him Uncle Larry, but I'm talking about Mr. McMahon now. This is a guy that's, his brother's Bob McMahon. Most people know the guy. He's another one that's just a great uncle. He has a couple of nephews that I've seen pull up their equipment with grills to feed the children at the Pine School. And both of these guys, and the only reason why I'm bringing these 2 guys up, I very seldom ever speak about memorials. Like Larry Hickey wants us to donate money to the St. Jude place, which is, this is an election year, and I raise money. I'm definitely going to give some money to St. Jude. I think it's a great, and that's in Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee. And Mr. McMahon and that family, this is where he wants to donate this year, to the Shed Park Baseball and Softball Organization. And Jerry McMahon, if you never met him, I've known him for 50 years. I'm not related to the McMahons, but what has happened is my wife's family has married one of the McMahons, and he had a great-granddaughter. I can't even say her name. Matter of fact, I would like my colleague maybe, to try to pronounce her name. I can't pronounce her name, so I'm going to say it's Eller. But she is I'm her great uncle. So I'm no relations to the McMahons, but Jerry McMahon, he left behind a great grandchild that is now my grandniece. So thank you, Mr. McMahon, for everything you've done to me in my life for over 50 years. You've been like an uncle to me, and anybody that's ever met you loves you. So to the McMahon family, my sorrows go out to you. I feel bad. Thank you for the time, Mayor.
Doc in the chamber, please. Thank you. Next, we have motions. The first motion by Mr. Dakota. Ask the superintendent to check with all school principals to verify if classroom teachers are reciting the Pledge of Allegiance every day as required by Mass General Law. I need a second by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it actually speaks for itself. I did have a copy, if didn't make enough copies for everyone, that specifically states that the Pledge of Allegiance is a requirement for all of the public schools. And it came to my attention that there were several schools that weren't doing the pledge. It takes all of 15 seconds. It can't take away from the education process. So I believe that we have to be in compliance, and I think all principals have to be getting the pledge in their morning activities. Thank you.
Further discussion? All right, thank you. Next, by Mr. Dakota, ask the superintendent to work with the city manager to try and obtain the use of some of the Greater Lowell technical students to help alleviate some of the open work orders that are overwhelming our city workers. Need a second by Mr. Hoey. Mr. Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We, in all of our conversations about different things and things that we really need to have done, and I will defer to the CFO on that one, having come from that school, just to see if we can work out some kind of an association with the technical school to get some work done. I know that would probably be an issue with the city unions and so forth, but I think it's something that would help at least, and it would be providing opportunities, educational opportunities to our students at the technical school. So I think it would be a win-win all around. They're overwhelmed at the DPW, and there'd be a force of kids that would be available to help us out. So that's basically, now I'll defer to Assistant Superintendent Finance. Thank you.
Mr. Turner?
Great minds think alike. We thought the same thing. The director of facilities and I met with Jim Donison when I first started back in September to find out if we could do this, have the Voc kids help us and assist us with projects. As a matter of fact, the school committee for the Voc actually wanted that before too. But unfortunately, it's not the DPW or the schools that don't want it. It's that it interferes with the unions, and the unions had a problem with it. So we can reach out to the city manager and see if we can talk to the unions and see if they could do it more for experience for the kids. But at this time, they had said, up until now, they said no.
Well, I think it's worth looking into at least and getting a definitive answer on that. Anything that can help us out, helping the city out as well. I mean, not just the school department, but would be helping the city.
Just for information, that is being discussed, but it has to be discussed with the unions. And there are certain,
of course.
There are certain projects over the years that, the unions has, stated it's okay or whatever, but it's a negotiated issue. And we're also doing that with the Bill Rickhouse, the correction for some of the school issues, the outside building issues and
Great.
things like that.
Okay, thank you.
No. Next, motion by Mr. Nutter. School committee vote to request city provide minimum 42% of the net school spending requirements in the form of cash contributions to the Lowell Public School System. The next maintenance of effort agreement. Need a second on this, right? Mr. Doherty, Mr. Nutter?
Thank you. As everyone is aware, we have been trying to work on a new maintenance of effort agreement. And one of the things in talking with DESE, and their financial people about this is the fact that one of the questions I had is the city receives for this year, present school year, $150 million in Chapter 70 money. The city's requirement under education reform is $47,390,803. Of that, we are provided with a cash contribution of, I'm just going to round it around, 15.7 million, which is somewhere around 33.5% of the total net school spending requirement that we get in cash. However, out of that percentage, we have to pay for transportation. It now drops that percentage down to about 13%. When I asked Desi if there was any requirements as far as what cities and towns can charge percentage-wise, maintenance of effort versus cash contributions, the answer is no. There is nothing. So there is nothing preventing from what has been happening to continue to happen. The suggestion was the only way to resolve that would be to have that as part of a maintenance of effort agreement. And, you know, there are a lot of items that the city does contribute that does cost the city money. The plowing of the parking lots, the picking up of the trash, and the trash fees have gone up. But there's some others that have jumped that we've seen over the last few years without a lot of backup documentation. So I just want my fellow committee people to, you know, join me. We're going through that district comprehensive evaluation, and we're reminded that we have a fiscal responsibility to our students. And so this is just a way to, you know, to let the city know that the school committee is on board, and this is what we're looking for as at least an opening conversation.
All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, by Mr. Nutter, school committee requests the next maintenance of effort agreement that the city CFO or their representative attend the second school committee meeting every January with a detailed report on the maintenance of effort charges year-to-date in October with a detailed report on maintenance of effort charges for the previous school year. Need a second? By Mr. Dakota?
You know, one of the things that amazes me about this whole idea of maintenance of effort is we are asking a superintendent and a CFO to build a budget without knowing how much they're receiving in cash and how much we're being charged. The other thing that going through the existing maintenance of effort, there is no requirement for the city to report to us. And we don't know until after the year is over, usually, what has happened. And this came to light recently in a meeting where we were given what the expenses were for 2018. And I noticed in their summary that we were charged over $1 million for police. And among the charges included in that was the traffic supervisor, was the people who painted fire lanes and crossing lanes at our schools. And above all, it was also included the crossing guards, which in our existing maintenance of effort agreement, it clearly spells out that those charges will be reported, but do not count to maintenance of effort. Now, when I brought this up at the meeting, I was told that, well, yeah, we didn't really charge you for that. We took it out. It was caught somewhere. However, in the documentation that we were provided in February, all that was still there. And when I went on the DESE website today, that $1 million charge is still there. And again, I'm asking DESE about how we keep track of this. He said the suggestion was to build in. So in January, just like we get a monthly report or a quarterly report that the auditor presents of where the budget is, you know, Ms. Turner's going to be giving us a monthly report, and she gives us a report every time we meet. We need to, trust but verify. And so getting a report in January, that's 6 months of the year. We will know what we have spent so far in maintenance of effort. And then after the city closes its books, and I realize sometimes that takes until September or October. That's why I'm looking at October. And again, just so that as we build this next maintenance of effort agreement, that the city knows we're all on the same page and working together. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hoy?
I know Mr. Nutter has a few more motions to go, but I want to say something about all these motions that he has. Number one, thank you, Mr. Nutter, for the work you've been doing on the maintenance of effort. I'm not sure if it was 2 years ago, could have been even 3, because time really flies, but we had a facility subcommittee right here, and I think it was you, Mayor, Rita Mercier, John Leahy, myself, Mr. Gendron, Steve Gendron, and Bob Gignac. Those 6 people, and it's basically is like when I heard Mr. Leahy on the WCAP today is we have to stop pointing fingers. He's very, very right on that, but I think 2 years ago is when we pointed the finger. What I like to say is we opened the can of worms. And the discussion that we had in those facility subcommittee, Ms. Doherty started to hit motions on maintenance of effort. I'm not going to give any credit to Salah Kafawi at this time, but he's the one that pushed me towards saying a lot of stuff about maintenance of effort. So all the negative things we say to him, I think some of this comes from him. So I want to thank everybody involved, both facility subcommittees. I think when you get together like that, like I say, 2 or 3 years ago, we said some pretty heavy things to the ex-manager, and I know they didn't like it, but I think what Mr. Nutter has brought after he got elected is we're on the way to fixing the maintenance of effort. And so I'm really happy that Mr. Nutter has these motions in tonight. And again, thank you, Jerry.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you. I just want to add one thing. I think that it's been an ongoing struggle. I know for myself, I've been paying attention a long time in terms of what's been happening in the schools and the deterioration of our buildings. And I think one of the things that has always been the most challenging has been the lack of communication. So this particular motion about saying, we get this report twice a year. What were we charged last year? How does the first 6 months of this year look? It's going to really take a very important step toward improving that communication so that we don't find ourselves in positions where we are pointing fingers. Everybody gets all upset when we have to close school because we don't have heat. I mean, it's a real problem, but how do we start to resolve it? And I think communication is one of the foundational steps. So I think this is a great motion, and I completely support it. Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
I'm happy to say that we did receive a letter from the city manager, and just yesterday, and she we are going to get the Chapter 70 funds, so we will meet this 42% request anyhow. And I also wanted to say that thank you, because the conversation with the city, understanding the maintenance of effort, I think it just enlightened all of us, and so just having that better understanding is going to help all of us with the budget, so thank you.
Further? Just for the record, I attended last week the House and the Senate hearings on the Promise Act and other acts. Senator Kennedy and myself both spoke on the issue of funding for the local cities and towns. But I heard many superintendents from especially gateway cities talking about the same problem. But what we're talking about now is establishing a better sense of communications for the thing, because nobody really had answers, and I think we're working at it. So that's what's important to think about, But we're not alone in this problem. It's a statewide issue, and I heard the superintendent from Fall River talking about 100-year-old buildings and heating systems failing and this and that. So the question is, the more communication we have, the better off we are. All set on that motion? Okay. Next, by Mr. Nutter, request the Finance Subcommittee before the next school committee meeting that have an Assistant Superintendent Turner present a list of policy and procedures that have been put in place that address many of the oversight and accounting issues raised in the fiscal audit. I need a second by Mr. Hoey. Mr. Nutter?
You know, I think the work that Ms. Turner and Mrs. Durkin and their team have done to address a lot of the issues that have been found, and somehow I don't think that message has been made clear enough, especially to our fellow city councilors, that this team has put many safeguards, some safeguards that were already in place that were, you know, overwritten. They have looked at them, they have changed them, they have strengthened them. And so I just want to give them an opportunity to show that, you know, we looked at that financial audit and they have responded and have done an outstanding job responding.
Madam Superintendent?
Given that our next school committee meeting is next week, I was wondering if the maker of the motion would be, afford us a little time so that we can have that report concise and provided to you.
I forgot that, so yes, we'll do it for
you.
2 weeks.
All set. On the next motion, Mr. Nutter, there's 4 steps. Do you want me to read all 4 steps, or you'll take care of it?
Just summarize.
Okay. So the motion by Mr. Nutter, request mayor invite city auditor to attend the next school committee meeting to address the questions, findings stemming from the fiscal audit and the best practice procedures among the issues to be addressed. Need a second by Mr. Hoey. Mr. Nutter?
And again, this ties in with, you know, showcasing what what we've done on our side of the house, but there were several items mentioned on the city side in that audit where it was noted that, you know, as a result, we consider the expenditures non-compliant with Mass General Law, non-compliant with Mass General Law, supporting documentation was not supplied and should not be approved by the auditor's office. So I think that we want to hear, and I know you worked on this on the city council side, getting a report done, but we need to hear what has changed in the auditor's office to assist us with, you know, tightening up and more control over the fiscal, and no offense to any of my colleagues sitting here, but one of my biggest issues was the fact that, you know, a budget was submitted that did not have approval from the school committee. And I know that our charter says that a department cannot turn in a budget that is higher than what the city council has voted on, but there is also a requirement that all transfers and things be approved by the city council, by the school committee. And had the school committee been made aware of that issue, then I think steps could have been taken and things could have been addressed that may have headed off, or hopefully may have highlighted some of the issues that we've fought with this whole year. So I just think having the auditor here at the same time, and if we could schedule it at the same time that Ms. Turner and Mrs. Durkin want to do their presentation, just to show everyone that, you know, I know the auditor's office and our office, financial office teams are meeting now, and just to show everyone that we are trying to work collaboratively, we are trying to strengthen and put checklists in place, because sometimes watching your fellow counselors, I don't think they get the fact that we have worked hard to put some of this stuff into place.
I think, as Mr. Nutter said, I have been working with our auditor, and the one thing the auditor has agreed upon, that he wants to meet monthly with our CFO, Ms. Turner, to, one, make sure that he's in clear understanding what DESI regulations are, so he can monitor those things, but so they can have common dialogue as to what the problems are, and make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, as simple as that. But he did perform a good oversight. You can disagree with, there are some things where it's a matter of opinion, others it's regulations, others it's law. But I think what we have now is regular communication. Then I also asked him if every 3 months, when he's doing the overall audit for the school committee, that he come before the school committee if there's any questions that need to be addressed. So we'd make him available to the school committee for any open discussion. Mr. Hoey, then Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Ms. Turner, on the first part of his motion is the use of school facilities. I know when we were looking into that a while back, and when I first got here three years ago, it was a secretary named Terry, I forget her last name, that was in charge of collecting all the money for use of facilities, and thought she was doing a great job there. But I remember some people were paying less than others and all that. Have you looked into that at all? I know you had a lot to do, but I'm just wondering if we got that more squared away.
Yes, we did. We did identify that there are inconsistencies where there are people that say they're nonprofit, and if we look on their website, they are for-profit, things like that. We have not been able to develop a new policy and iron out the details yet, but we have a draft. I just, with everything else going on, we haven't had that opportunity to bring it to you, but yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty, you had a question?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak on the motion again. I think that, again, it speaks to the idea of better communication, so I see it as definitely a strong move in the right direction. We identified that, there were certain places that fell through on both ends, and certainly the city auditor's role provides another check and balance for us. So we're looking to bring that full circle and just have that conversation. So again, I think it's a great motion and a great step in improving our communication.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
We did have a city finance team meeting, and we are going to work together to develop the internal controls, because if we have buy-in from both departments, we just have better success. So when the city auditor mentioned some issues with purchase orders, he sent something, I sent it out to the school district because it's a buy-in. We both had our individual messages on those, so we're already starting to do it together.
I would describe these as milestones. I mean, because really it just hasn't been done to this degree before. And I think this is, if we're going to have a relationship that's positive, the more information we have on both sides that we share, the better the results, no matter what. Mr. Nutter, do you have anything else on this? Any further? Okay, next. Motion by Mr. Nutter. Request Mayor to explain why the existing Lowell School Committee Policy BDBF Advisory Committee to the School Committee was not followed when naming the Blue Ribbon Panel, noting the following last line of the policy. The school committee possesses certain legal powers and prerogative that cannot be delegated or surrendered to others. Therefore, all recommendations of an advisory committee must be submitted to the school committee. The committee will have the sole power to dissolve any of the advisory committees and will reserve the right to exercise the power of any time during the life of any committee. Need a second? Mr. Dakota,
Mr. Mayor, I feel badly that I have to bring in this motion because I had to bring in a similar motion earlier this year. At our February 25th meeting, when we were talking about the Blue Ribbon Committee, you, answering a question from Mr. Lay, you proclaimed that the entire committee would be presented with a list of people who were going to be on, and we would be able to approve that as the policy. So it was a little disappointing, and truthfully, I felt disrespected that I read the makeup of the Blue Ribbon Committee, as did Mr. Dakota, in the newspaper. That's when I first found out who was on the Blue Ribbon Committee. And, we talk about communication, and we talk about working collaboratively, and things like this happen, and, it just feels that at times that, this committee has been disrespected. And, we came into some major issues. The issues were a lot bigger than we thought. We don't always have to agree. We've had some very spirited discussions. But as a whole, I think we have tried to move this district forward. I think the team we have in place has done a phenomenal job trying to do that. And occasions like this, where there's just such a complete lack of communication and, like I said, disrespect, I just, you don't owe me any apology, but I think the whole committee deserves, because we have a policy. You had made a promise at that meeting, and then it didn't occur.
Well, I will file a report regarding this matter, okay? But there was no disrespect intended, but the thing is, my timeline, I just couldn't reach the timeline. You should, though, have received, prior to it being in the paper, the names of all of the members, but it just didn't work out. So that I apologize for, but I will submit to you a report regarding this matter. Mr. Hoey?
Mayor, I know I'm not happy with a lot of what went on about the Blue Ribbon Committee, but I kind of think the whole school committee, including myself, is at fault, because we should have told you earlier what we wanted, and we didn't. You pick all the subcommittees, and I thought you did a fine job doing that, and I think if I was the mayor and none of the school committee people tried to guide you in the direction that we want to go about this Blue Ribbon Committee, I think you did what you had to do, and I think we're going beyond a point to try to fix anything. I'm kind of happy with what's going on. I didn't think I would be. So again, I blame us a little bit more than you on that issue. That's all.
You know, it's about communication. You know, Mr. Nutter's correct in the communication. You're correct. It goes both ways. But the thing is, I think this committee has been under a lot of pressure, okay? It's a unique time, I mean, because of the finances. If there's anything that can disrupt the situation is the money, because the thing is, what we want to offer the children of Lowell, it's very difficult at this point. But I think this committee, working with the city council, and we have to, and the superintendent working with the city manager, we have to. And the subcommittees, and I think I place a lot of value on the subcommittees, because I try to be careful in selecting the membership for the subcommittees. For example, the other night, I mean, we had a zoning subcommittee and a neighborhood subcommittee, but the two chairs handled a very potentially contentious issue regarding neighborhoods and zoning and what have you very well. So I want to applaud the work that's being done by the subcommittees here, because that's where it's going to get done. The subcommittees of the school committee working with the subcommittees of the city council. And as you said, Mr. Hoey, making sure that we get the right information out and we actually have such discussions where it's not only clear between us, but it's clear to the administration what we want. I think that's the next step. Mr. Hoey.
I just want to say, I mean, what Mr. Nutt is saying is good, and I believe that there was problems with it, but at the same time, I've never received more phone calls than I've been getting in the past 6 to 7 days. You know, you get, you know, it's been compromised, and this is happening, that happening. I've been involved in it, and I just think everybody's trying to do the right thing. I'm not going to say it was perfect, all your picks. I'm not going to say why I was mad at this time. I'll do that on City Life. But again, I can't blame you, Mayor. I just can't blame you for this issue right now, because I wish I did know that policy, and I'm glad Mr. Nutter shows us this, because then we could have maybe done something, but I think it's a little bit too late to do anything, so.
Mr. Nutter.
Good segue, Mr. Hoey. Just out of a formality, I would like to make a motion that we approve the members of the Blue Ribbon Panel to follow our own policy. Even though they've already been named, I have no intention at this point. These people have made a huge commitment of their time to do this. So I would make a motion that we formally approve the members of the Blue Ribbon Panel.
Seconded by Ms. Martin?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
But I had a comment.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish.
Through you to the superintendent, who's trying to, God bless her, give me some help here.
Is that a substitute motion to the motion that's here, or?
No, this is
Okay.
an additional motion. The mayor has already said he would respond to that one, so my additional motion is just to formally approve per our policy.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just so to kind of make sure we're clear in the language of this that Mr. Nutt has shared with us, and my recollection as we went through in the population, this committee did vote to empower the mayor to make those selections. We voted to request from the community letters of interest, applications. This committee picked the many different criteria, the kind of list of how many people in representing which constituencies. This committee voted on that. And again, we voted on having the mayor populate those different criteria. To my knowledge, there hasn't been any deviation from that. The individuals on the Blue Ribbon Committee meet all the criteria that this committee had put forth. To Mr. Nutter's point, I just want to be clear. The line here, therefore, all recommendations of an advisory committee must be submitted to the school committee, does not reference how you populate a subcommittee. It's referencing any decisions made by that subcommittee must then be approved by the full committee. I think that it kind of tails from the first sentence saying that the school committee cannot surrender these responsibilities to a subcommittee and then just move on. It's saying that the school committee can, create a subcommittee, any subcommittee, whether it's of the whole or an advisory committee in this case, which is being referenced. But ultimately, any decisions will always have to come back to the full school committee to vote on it. So this isn't referencing the population or the creation of an advisory committee. It's basically stating that those advisory committees or subcommittees cannot take any action without the school committee taking the ultimate, making the ultimate decision.
My report will,
Wonderful.
answer Mr. Nutt's report, and we can have a further debate on that issue. I'm not going to apologize for my choices, but I'm going to apologize for the fact that I did say I would get the names back. I did say that, and I didn't. I just did not have the time. And that when I did the final decision, there was an expectation that you'd all receive the names prior to the Lowell Sun getting names, because that's the fair thing to do. But that was the day I was also leaving to go and speak at the hearings in Boston. So my life has been a little busy, but the thing is, there's no excuse for it, and I accept that. But I will respond to that based on, as the chair of the committees and also having the power to set up the subcommittees, there are things that do go against each other as to what the powers are of the chair and what the powers are of the school committees. So I'd like to get that straightened out for further, so we don't get bogged down with it in the future. Mr. Lay?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Just to refer to Mr. Nutter's motion earlier, since, Mayor, you are going to give us a report anyway, I think it makes sense that we should wait until to get a report to vote on it rather than wait on it now and get the report later.
It's not a vote. There's not a vote now. It's just, he's asked for a report. And that's...
There is
a motion. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I would rather wait until approve when we get the list.
Sorry.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the selection of the screening committee. I think that since that work has already begun, that we should follow through on that motion. In terms of the report, that's just additional information.
Do you want a roll call on that?
I think if I could finish, I think we do need a roll call on that. But the other thing I want to say is I received an email in advance, I thought, of the committee selection. But maybe it was after, I don't know. But the report that you're going to provide is fine. That's additional information. We can get it. But that does not impact the work of the screening committee, which has already started. And I think we should do, as the motion that's on the floor right now asks for, a formal vote accepting that screening committee.
I think you have a great screening committee, and I think a lot of good work will be done. I mean, but why don't we have, excuse me, Mr. Lay, do you want? I'd like to have a roll call on the motion on the vote regarding the membership.
Right, but the thing is, again, Mayor, this is going to be vote on something that I have no idea who the 20 people are. If we have a list, if you have a list of people for us to vote on, at least we have that in front of us to vote on.
There was an email that was sent out to, well, the original email only included the members of the committee. So the original email, Mr. Lay, Mr. Dakota, and myself were not part of that. Subsequently, we did receive an email that showed us everyone who was on that committee.
Okay, so if we vote now versus next week school committee meeting, what
Because
difference does it make?
the meeting, the Blue Ribbon Committee has already started
Right,
their
they
work.
already started, so if you wait just one more week, what difference does it make? It's okay, if you want
But
to vote
you
now.
have the information.
Right.
Mr. Lay. You have all that information? Yeah, roll call.
Mia Samaras?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
No.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 nay, approved.
All right, on the motion, do you want to wait till the report, or? All right. Next, we have a report of the Finance Subcommittee. Ms. Nutter?
Just we discussed this briefly at the last meeting also, just to accept this as a report of progress.
Okay, need a second? Ms. Martin, thank you. Okay, then we have now reports of the superintendent. 9-1 response to Jackie Doherty's motion on March 20th, 2019 regarding Lowell High School dual enrollment program. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd ask Assistant Superintendent Desmond to share that report with you. Also, we have Head of School Bastide here if you have any specific questions.
Included in the report are the current numbers of students enrolled at Lowell High School in the dual enrollment courses offered through Middlesex Community College and UMass Lowell. Also is a listing of the courses. And I do want to point out, because I believe it was part of the question from our last meeting, is these courses are held at Lowell High School with approved syllabuses and training of the staff that offer those courses.
Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, and I want to thank you for the quick response to this motion. Just a couple of quick follow-ups. So is there a limit in how many students can be involved in dual enrollment? Because I was surprised that 202 is a good number for Middlesex, but we only have 25 students taking the UML accredited courses. So is there a limit, and how do students find out about it? And then secondly, so they're held at Lowell High. Are the teachers MCC teachers or UML teachers? There are teachers who have additional training to follow the college accredited syllabus. Okay, she's nodding her head, so the answer is coming across.
Yes, so
So I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously, it's a great opportunity for our students. If you graduate Lowell High and you've already got a couple of college courses under your belt, and, you know, it's really gives you a great leg up, not to mention lowering your expenses, you know, at the college level. So I'm just wondering how we are getting that information out to students and if there is a limit in terms of student involvement, because 25 doesn't seem like that big of a number. Thank you.
So what happens with these courses is that the students are recommended based on their performance in coursework prior to this, and then they meet with their advisors and make the selections. The University of Massachusetts Lowell courses have prerequisites. So if you haven't completed the prerequisites for the course, you wouldn't be able to enroll in it. I will have Head of Schools Bastide speak a little bit more about that.
So good evening. There is no limit to the number of students that can sign up. It's just really, excuse me, what they decide they want to do. We're doing course selection right now with students. It'll be over in about 2 weeks, and we'll get a good idea for next year how many students are interested. But when they meet with their guidance counselors, which they're doing now, they strongly encourage students to reach for that. Some students want to stay on the safe side and not, it's more work. But we really try to encourage students to sign up for it if they feel like they're ready.
Could I follow up with that? So do you think the vast difference in numbers, like we have over 200 with MCC courses and only 25 with UML, is that because of the courses offered are more challenging or because of the prerequisite requirements? But we do offer the prerequisite courses, correct?
Yes. I think that for me, and Robin can jump in too, but for me, first of all, there's only 2 courses for dual enrollment for UMass Lowell, right? So that makes a big difference right there. We're hoping next year, because some pathway changes, that we're going to get more of enrollment there. Definitely expecting that to go higher. but there's 2 courses there where there's many more from MCC.
Is there an opportunity to grow that program with UML?
So currently, we're working on some innovative pathway grants that will allow us to create, we have a couple of courses, educational pathway and also our biomedical pathway that will allow us to develop some additional courses with UMass Lowell.
So final question. So is the funding coming from grants then to pay for these courses? So it is. So it is somewhat limited in terms of our ability to get the grant money in to do it.
So the bio course that we are currently working on, we have, we will be able, so the funding is to start the syllabus work and the training of the teacher. Once that's established, then we can run the course because that work has already been done. So it's seeding our program, but we don't need it to continue our program, although we will strive to get every grant possible to fund what we're doing. But once it's established, it will be sustainable.
So we have the teacher this summer going for training to add that extra course. Just a plug for the education pathway. I just have to throw it in there because of the need for teachers and diversity in our schools. We're working, Robin and I and a few members of the high school staff are working directly with UMass Lowell. Rob DeLosa's been very instrumental in that as well, setting up an education pathway, and we are implementing that this fall. We're starting that pathway, so I'm really excited about that.
And fortunately, the internships we can provide in our own system.
Right.
Right, right in our own classroom, in our own schools.
Ms. Martin?
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Hello. To answer your question that Ms. Doherty had, so how the dual enrollment programs are spread amongst Lowell High School students, we're encouraged to take this test called the AccuPlacer. I took it during my junior year, and it basically just places you in what you are eligible to take if you're a senior for a dual enrollment program. And it's also spread through word of mouth. People say that the psychology dual enrollment program is very exciting and very insightful. So I definitely wanted to take it, and I took it. And also they said the same with sociology. The teachers there are they're very educated, and when I step in the classroom, it feels like a college classroom. I feel like a college student. So yeah, that's to answer your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good answer. Thank you. All right, everybody all set? Okay, thanks. Next, we have 9.2, response to Mr. Hoey's motion, February 6, 2019, regarding cell phone usage at Lowell High School. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Bastide is here, and if she can share some of the updates, what she's working on at the high school relative to this motion.
Thank you. So this year we started a student voice group where there's about 42 students in the group that are working towards change at the high school, and in conjunction with that group, we also started a staff voice group. There's about 35 staff members in that group, so it's a big group of staff members, wide cross-section that are interested in implementing some change at the high school, some positive change. So I've been working with them to try to give them encouragement and support around the issues that they saw they wanted to work on first. So as you can see on my memo, the 3 subject areas, one was around cell phones, and it tied in very nicely with Mr. Hoey's motion. It was right around the same time they came up with that. Staff morale at the high school and consistency of discipline and procedures between the house offices. So the 35 adults are broken up into those 3 groups. The cell phone specific group, they're very passionate about students using cell phones at Lowell High School, and they're doing a lot of work around the effect of cell phone use, especially having cell phones in the classroom and to the detriment often of students. That's what they're looking at. So the first thing that they needed to do was to do a survey, which was perfect, so I could bring that to you. We sent this out to the staff last week, and if you go through the survey and the questions that they asked, there's several of the questions in there that are somewhat split. 50, it's interesting because the last high school I was at, it was very similar, that some teachers feel like they really want to ban cell phones. It'd be interesting if we did this survey with students, what they would say. But as far as the staff members are concerned, some amount of them do want the cell phones to go away in the classroom. They feel like it's very disruptive. And we do have a cell phone policy, but they feel like oftentimes it's unmanageable because there are just so many of them in the room, and they're pulling out their cell phones and they're not paying attention. And, you know, there's something to be said for that. So they really want to go off and they want to study this and study options, things that we could do at the high school to really help students focus on what they're learning in the classroom as opposed to what they're reading and responding to on their cell phones. So that's how this all came about. And I don't know if you have any questions, but right now, you know, they have the survey results. They're doing, you know, like I said, they're doing a lot of research around this. They're going to be going back to the staff. I think this is definitely a work in progress. I mean, it's nowhere near trying to make any changes at this point, but they're, like I said, they're very passionate about this. And for me, as the head of school, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that these three groups really want to make some positive change, and I support them in the work that they're doing. And the staff morale, just to throw it out there, one of the things they said to me is that, gee, all the businesses, they get to wear jeans on Friday, and a lot of those elementary and middle schools get to wear jeans on Friday, and it would really make us happy if we could wear jeans on Friday. A lot of them said that. And so I decided, okay, you know what, well, let's do it. So let's see how it goes. So they are now wearing jeans on Friday. That was their very first request of me, which is just, it wasn't exactly what I expected, but that was their first request, and I said, okay, let's do that. So they're working on bringing up the morale. They're having an after-school function this week for teachers at Lowell High School to help build morale. And then the consistency between house offices, they're working to have consistent approaches to how they record attendance, discipline, and things like that. So that's just a little bit of background. I thought I'd throw it in there since I was up here.
Mr. Tricoto.
Thank you.
Tricoto, recognized by the table, chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Mrs. Bastide, thank you very much for the update and the report on this, and I know there's more to come. I just want you to know that, you know the little guy with glasses that passes out checks to everybody? His name's Bill Hoey.
Yes.
Okay. He used to be a security guard at your school, and now he passes out checks. I think the mayor hooked him up with that job, but I'm not sure about that. It wasn't me. But he did bring up that motion. He's the one that brought this motion up. I know he's very involved with the high school. I only get in there now and then, but he thought it was a big issue, and I think it is. So thanks, Uncle Bill. And I love the way you have the staff involved with this, plus that group of students. So what I read, I'm happy. I know there's a better report to come, and something good of this will come soon. So thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tricoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. I was just wondering what kind of activities the teachers are going to be doing at this morale-building get-together. Do you know?
I think they feel like they don't get a chance to see each other that much and really get to know each other better. It's such a big school. So one of the things that we've instituted this year as a result of their feedback is the breakfast once a month. So each house office and then the main office, we have a big breakfast for everybody. And so many people come to that. I was just really surprised. It's before school, and a lot of staff members come in and load up their plates. So that's been really enjoyable. The after-school event on Friday, trying to get people to come out after school and enjoy some time together. And they have some other things up their sleeve, but that's the beginning. And then, of course, the jeans was the first thing that they requested. So, and I think that empowering them is really important to me. I think, this is their school, it's our school, and I think it coming from the grassroots is important.
Well, first, let me just say that I missed out on that, so I'm a little jealous about that. But, anytime you include food on anything, you're ensuring success of anything that you're going to do, especially with teachers, for sure.
Right.
Mr.
And
Dakota,
they all bring the
we had
food,
'em
so.
once a week.
Really?
We did. You
Yeah, well,
you were in the other building.
But it would only be like, how often would we have that, though?
No, it was once a week
Yeah?
for a while, yeah. But the thing is, you were on the other side of the building.
That's true.
So the
That's
dark
right.
area.
The trek across.
Well, it sounds like they brought it back then, because they hadn't been doing it for a while, so.
Mr. Hoey?
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick there. Ms. Bastide, did you mention something about the discipline in different houses? That they're discussing that, so everybody's kind of uniform across the board? Is that part of this conversation?
They're having conversation about how they're recording things, discipline, attendance procedures and things like that. So there's a lot of procedural discussions that they're having. They're also touching on the discipline between the houses. So that committee is very focused on trying to have more consistency among the House offices.
Thank you again.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Okay. Next, 9.3, we're going to defer to the next meeting, and that's a motion by Ms. Martin regarding kindergarten admission policies. You have someone coming to speak on that program? Jenny, Dr.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, the presenter, Ms. Van Thiel, wasn't able to attend tonight, so if it's okay, I can defer till next Wednesday. And it's a dense report, so it'll give the committee an opportunity to review it. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I thought it was somebody that represented you, so.
That's perfectly fine.
You all set to defer it? Okay. So, next, we have fiscal 2020 Inclusive Preschool Learning Environment Award. Madam Superintendent?
It's just to share with you, we're trying to keep you updated on the grants that we're receiving, and the district received $112,817,000 for the next school year. This is a grant that we have had in the past. It'll be the last year for this grant, and it'll fund 3 preschool paraprofessional positions and fringe benefits.
Any discussion? Thank you. Next, we have planning for fiscal year 2020, grade 5 pilot and 5-6 alternative program. Madam Superintendent?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a review of the steps that the leadership team, along with some of our principals and other administrators at the district level, have taken to assess our current 5th grade pilots. Although every single one of us at the table believe in the K-5 model, we cannot recommend sustaining that for the upcoming school year. The original budget for FY19, the committee had voted to approve that grade 5 pilot at the Moody and the Riley School. That made our 4th graders stay there for their 5th grade year. It also eliminated the classes, the 5th grade classes from the Sullivan. In addition, the proposal closed the Cardinal O'Connell alternative program and included a plan for the Sullivan to add alternative classrooms and a coordinator to oversee those classrooms. So the plan for the Bridge program was also to add 10 additional slots to accommodate grades 7 and 8 students from classrooms that were eliminated at Cardinal. This plan also eliminated 1 strand from each grade level at the Riley School in order to accommodate the grade 5 students in the classrooms. It also eliminated pre-K and K classes at the Moody and add the Early Childhood Center at the Cardinal O'Connell. So this school year, as everyone knows, we had some substantial budget constraints, and due to that, we didn't hire the alternative coordinator, the case manager. We didn't fill the position at the Bridge for the new teaching spot, and we took the teachers that were hired at the alternative, for the alternative program at the Sullivan, and we moved them into open positions in the district to save money. So looking forward to FY20, we've taken the following steps so far. We convened a series of meetings with our leadership team, along with Family Resource Center Coordinator, Assistant Business Manager for Transportation, and our Facilities Director to review our enrollment, to look at our facilities, to really do a full assessment around what we could do. Because what our thought was, is if we could move this forward and have K-5 across the district, then that would be an equitable plan for all students. That unfortunately wasn't the case. We had convened with the city manager, the city officials, chief financial officer, and a number of other people from the city to look at viable spaces. And we reviewed city-owned buildings. We looked at a timeline for submission of an RFP, and we were notified that, that had passed. And we also confirmed that the freshman academy plan was not an option for right now until that high school is built. So we reviewed all of our school buildings, as I mentioned, for space. And we also hosted a meeting with city officials to develop the RFP for suitable space for a new middle school for FY21. We reviewed the program equity for current grade 5 students that are at the Riley and the Moody. So some of the factors that played into our decision were that those 5th grade students didn't have the same instructional time as our 5th grade students across the city. They also weren't afforded all of the same allied arts schedule that our middle school students, and intramurals were also. And I do want to commend our principals at the elementary levels who took on this 5th grade model, because they made lots of adjustments to try to support students given that they didn't have this. So additionally, the original pilot didn't unfortunately have a plan for our Lincoln School 4th graders. So the 4th graders who were normally to go to the Sullivan, we didn't have a place for them. So what happened, and we are seeing the impact of it this year, is we have many students had to be funneled to the Butler in different schools, and some of them are out of zone. So, so our Butler school principal had actually approached us, and we had our facilities director look to see, do we expand the Butler school? That would have meant like taking existing rooms, putting up walls, and adding a 6th strand there to be able to accommodate some of that, the large classes. Given all of those factors in play, and looking that we had 6 open classes at the Sullivan School, even though this team will make a full recommendation to the new superintendent that to develop, and we'll put some pieces of that plan together for them, because we've done a lot of the legwork for this, to really look forward to doing a full-scale move of the K-5. So we have had conversations with the UTL around this, because we feel that, and they've been very accommodating with us to look at those teachers that did have to move, and afford them an opportunity if they elect to go back to their schools. That's the human thing and the right thing to do for these. So that conversation has been taking place. Additional, we met with the principals, we've met with the staff, and last evening we also met with the parents. So it is our recommendation, and we respectfully request the school committee to consider this plan for FY20 budget to eliminate the pilot only because of space and the equity issues for our students at this current time, not that we don't believe in it.
Mr. Hoy?
Thank you, Mayor. I have too much to say about this issue, but I'm going to say a little bit. Number one, I think the best thing we ever did is form that, keeping the fourth graders back a year before they go into the middle schools, and that's all I'll say about that issue. Closing the Cardinal O'Connor School as an alternative school, that's another great thing the school committee did. Now that it has pre-K in there, other than maintenance, the school's a jewel. So to remember 10 or 11 kids that aren't doing the right thing, owning that whole school, I think with open rooms at the Sullivan, like if you have 6 classrooms, well, that's a great time to take 2 of those empty rooms and put whoever's disrupting the classrooms at the Sullivan School inside those empty rooms with staff. That's how I've always felt about alternative schools. You have 2 jewels as far as alternative schools. That's the Bridge and the LeBlanc. I don't think I've ever seen anything better than the Bridge or the LeBlanc in my lifetime. And I voted against all alternative schools 22 years ago. After watching the LeBlanc and the Bridge, I say, beautiful. So I have concerns about us sending those alternative school kids over to the LeBlanc right now, when I thought sending them back to the Sullivan was a great idea. Take care of your own problems, give them the staff that they need, couple of open classrooms. The Robinson needs this badly. And hopefully we start moving in the right direction. So I'm not going to vote for that. I don't support your plan right now. I'm going to vote no, and I'm not going to say much more tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Nutter?
I was able to attend that parent meeting last night, and what pleasantly surprised me was not only how well received this information was from the parents, and what a great respect the parents were last night, but the number of parents who talked positively about the changes that have been going on at the Sullivan School. It has in the past had a not the best reputation, but listening to the parents and the passion in their voices last night and the positive attitude that they talk about, that the principal has brought up there and his staff, and the discipline, it is getting to be a better school. I live over in Centerville. I've heard the same thing about the new administration at the Robinson School. The past reputations will slowly go away as these principles take hold and shape the schools. And it was so heartwarming last night to hear so many parents talking about how well the Sullivan School is doing and how responsive the principal and his team have been over there. So, you know, I think the district is heading in a positive direction. We talked about the equity issue where, you know, I pointed out to everyone, I live over at Centerville. So if my son or daughter was a 5th grader at the Robinson, they were going to school 100 hours a year more than a 5th grader who's going to the Riley. And that's because the Riley is considered an elementary and the Robinson's considered a middle. But we talked about the equity of that. So I thought the parents were very receptive of the idea. They understood the reasoning, and the information and the positive news about the Sullivan School is something that needs to be spread loud and wide and often. The reputation of the Sullivan and the Robinson are changing, and we need to support that change and encourage the positive news that we're hearing about those 2 schools.
No, I mean, I would have been at that meeting, but as you know, I was at the city council meeting, but I still got word about the parents enjoying, you know, good dialogue, and that's what's important to me. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. You know, having gone through all the materials you provided, I think it's certainly a very compelling case, and I agree that moving forward for next year, putting that 5th grade class, that first 5th grade class back at the Sullivan, seems like the only tenable solution. So I appreciate getting all the background information that kind of supports that, that proposal. I just want to say, as we move forward, I think you've made it a real point that this isn't, that this isn't a dead idea, that you want to move forward with it. I don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other, but I do think we should be getting just as compelling information about why is it a good thing. When we made this first vote, this committee had voted to make this change last year, and I'm only speaking for myself. I never felt we got any information about why, what the benefit was. It solved a problem at the Cardinal, it solved a problem in the preschool, it solved a lot of peripheral problems, but I never had any real understanding about what the benefits were about making that move to 5th grade. I've heard some anecdotal, opinions from the community and whatnot, but I think if we move forward and this does come up again, to the point even that it's being made as a recommendation to the next superintendent, I would really want us to have a very strong understanding of what the basis for this is and what we're moving towards, just in terms of goals and what we hope it will accomplish. But as I say, I certainly support this, this plan because, quite honestly, you've made the argument very well. There's nothing else. There's really nothing else to be done.
Thank you. Mr. Hoey.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to add that I feel a sense that there is a compelling reason to do a K-5 model, just that they're so young at 5th grade. But I did not support this proposal when it first came before us, for the simple reason that it was not a fully thought-out plan. So I sit here horrified to find out that we had 5th graders at the Lincoln School that we didn't know what to do with. I mean, there were just so many moving parts that had not been addressed. That was not even one I was aware of at the time that we had this discussion during the budget meetings last year. So I would be very cautious about moving forward to do this kind of disruption. And I think what's equally compelling to me about what I see are the benefits of the K-5 model is, first, we have to do it in a way that's equitable across the district. And this pilot was never going to do that. Secondly, we need to have a really solid plan for our alternative students, because I think that is a very needy population, that those needs are not being met, and the disruption to the other students is just, it builds when those needs are not being met. So I think that this idea of being able to, okay, we'll take the 6th graders who have problems and expand the bridge program, we'll really do it this time, as opposed to just talking about it, because it didn't happen this school year, and I understand why. There were all these other factors involved. But we really need to also look with those 5th graders, and maybe it is some kind of a hybrid model, that there is space for a program or whatnot, but I do think that right now this is absolutely the way we have to go. We have to go back to square one if we're committed to a K-5 model and figure out one that works across the board for the district. But for now, we need to put things back in place with these disruptions to our staff and start
Madam
over.
Superintendent,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hoey. Okay.
Thank you. So I just wanted to clarify that for Mr. Hoey, that we are not planning to move students to LeBlanc. The LeBlanc is our therapeutic school. The Laura Lee and LeBlanc are our therapeutic schools, along with the 80. So we are not planning to move our alternative students, the program, to LeBlanc. I just wanted to clarify that. In addition, I wanted to let you know that for the bridge piece, we have had several people going and visiting the bridge as today to look to see. They have some extreme, that's an old building, but they have some extremely large rooms that can easily accommodate class sizes of 12 to 15 if they were separated. So we had people from the city looking at that today. We have the fire department coming out. So we're working on that, and we can be assured that that is going to be in place. And then also working with Mr. Underwood on making sure that our moves go smoothly for our staff, and they get what they need to be able to make those transitions back.
Okay, Mr. Hoy, then Mr. Lay.
Again, thank you, Mayor. I will speak a second time on this issue because the only thing I have on my mind is the safety of a 10-year-old kid going to middle school. They leave the fourth grade, they're about 10, and they're going to go into a school that people will tell you they're 14. There's some kids that are 16 in our middle schools. They might be 17-year-olds in there. And the two schools we have to fix is the Robinson and the Sullivan. I'm not saying they're bad, and I'm not saying the Sullivan school principal right now, the new one, hasn't done a great job. But now we're going to keep what I thought was headed there, extra staff. I thought we were going to get the Sullivan School like a dean of discipline or another vice principal, because I think if we gave the Robinson and the Sullivan, two schools that we've had a problem with for a long time, it hasn't been just a year or two, those two schools, a lot of people are afraid to go to those schools. So by adding a little bit of staff there, I think the guy will bring us up to where that school needs to be. And we should be sending the same thing over to Robinson. I'm all set, but it's about safety of 10-year-olds. That's all I'm worried about. And I don't want to get into what's happened in those two schools, but I will say recently a teacher's been assaulted. I know. Well, he's saying equity. My thing about equity is if people are not doing the right thing at the Robinson School, equity would be fix it so all those kids get equity. They shouldn't have to live under this environment, and I'm telling you, in my opinion, those two schools need extreme help real quick, and it's probably only one position, just someone in charge of discipline to take the heat off both of those principals. And that's all I have to say, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Lay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I voted to approve this pilot program, and I think that's the reason for the pilot program. You want to try it and see how it is received. And last night I was at that meeting, and I felt that it was well received, and I am glad to hear Superintendent said that our administration also favor the K-5 program for elementary school. So for me, I like to keep it as going instead of taking it back. I would rather us trying to get more schools to join that program, pilot program that we're having. So for me, we've done it 1 year. I want to at least keep it that way and continue to add more, if not, at least keep it the same. So I like to keep the 5th grade at the elementary school instead.
Mr. Nutter?
Through you to the superintendent, are you asking for a vote tonight?
You did vote for the pilot, so we would need
I think we
you
should
to vote.
So I would make a motion to follow the recommendation of the administration and return the 5th grade to the Sullivan School and discontinue the pilot program.
Need a second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
No.
Mr. Lay?
No.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nays, approved.
All right, thank you. Next, we have LEAP grant updates. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, I'd ask Assistant Superintendent Desmond to share with you another piece of good news.
Thank you. In a collaborative effort, Dr. Palaccia, the coordinator of English language education, and district support specialist Rosa Sagara Morales worked together to apply for the Leading Education Access Project grant. They received that grant, and that grant will afford us to continue our cultural competency training of our staff. So what will happen is strategically, staff at every school, being instructional specialists and literacy specialists and a few other support staff, will participate in the training seminar, Leadership for Inclusive Practices. And then using the Train the Trainer model, they will come back and train staff during some professional learning time. This is a second step towards cultural proficiency. We spent some time this year where we had a team go in the summer, including Dr. Chia and Rosa Sagara Morales, along with several others, and Mr. Gervais at the high school, and a few others. They went to training, and then we brought a speaker in to speak to our leadership cohorts, and then we used time during our November release day for the cohort leadership team to then present to all staff this information. And so this is that second step in that process.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I think this is wonderful news, and the idea that we're going to be able to use these LEAP funds to pay for this is extraordinary. So this is linked with the permission to enter, correct? For Assabet, is it the same? Okay. And is it 3 full days that all these people will be pulled together? Okay. Just curious. Thank you very much. But congratulations. That's great news.
Further discussion? All right. Next, we have update in the LPS technology plan. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, and again, I'd ask Ms. Desmond to provide you with an update. Our technology plan was a 3-year plan spanning 2015 to 2018. It has expired. When the original plan was developed, it was developed with the leadership of Center for Educational Learning and Technology, CELT Corp. So we would like to engage CELT Corp in supporting us in reviewing the former plan, looking at areas of strengths, challenges, and revise that plan so that we have a 3-year plan spanning 2019 to 22. So attached to the cover letter is just a breakdown of the support that we would receive, and the results would be a 3-year tech plan that we hope to have completed for presentation to the committee in June.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. Can I ask, so I recognize that, and the ones that I've seen in the past have been very kind of hardware focused. Is there a software aspect of this as well, that the integrity group would be looking at the software that's kind of being used across the district as well as the hardware?
Mm-hmm. So we will review all elements. The 15 to 18 was more comprehensive, so we will look at that. There were some state standards around technology that were looked at as well. And so what we plan to do is bring together some committees that are representative of all areas of the school system to review that. So some teachers will be a part of the committee, some building leaders. I think at this point, the software is critical, but also the hardware, because we are now testing. This year, we were mandated to now use the online MCAS format for our grade 10 students, and we successfully tested 800 plus students last week in the ELA portion of that MCAS for the first time ever, and it went extraordinarily well. So I think you're correct. We need to look at all aspects, and so we will do that.
It seems very reasonable for that kind of intensive, comprehensive look. Thank you.
Mr. Hoy, then Mr. Dakota.
Thank you, Mayor. I recently was all over Dominic about not having a subcommittee on technology, and I'm still not sure why we haven't had one, Dominic, but I know you wanted to have one. I think someone might have told you not yet, or take your time. But all we wanted to do is bring all the tech staff into a subcommittee and bring one of your principals named Jim Cadesi from the Stocklosa School, because he'd be able to explain it better than me, but the Stocklosa School, I guess all principals have a certain little budget there, and he was recently taking out $20,000 out of this $80,000 he was telling us, and putting it into Chromebooks and $2,500 projectors for his school. So over a period of like 4 years, taking 20,000 out of that budget, I'm not sure if it was for a total of 4 years, but he's equipped his whole school with Chromebooks. Those carts cost about $8,000. He has $2,500 projectors all through his school, and all we really wanted to do in the subcommittee was bring the staff in, let them hear from Jim Cadesi what he did, and maybe we can go show all the other schools so they can load up with Chromebooks and those projectors. Now, it's an amazing thing what they did at the Stocklosa School. I probably said one or two things different about the money, but that's the way I took it. So right now, I'm just putting the heat on Dominic to put a motion in and have a subcommittee on technology, because I think we're way behind. I think on data, we're behind on that too. I think it's a big issue because it's been a lot about finance subcommittees, and there's no doubt we needed all of those and we need more. But I think technology is a subcommittee we need right now to try to kickstart us to get in a direction to get all our schools up to date with some computers. And I think this principal might have the answer for some of these other schools. That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Desmond?
Thank you. So I did ask Ms. DeLay to delay the subcommittee. That was my request, and that is because this report will allow us to go through schools and find out what hardware exists. So I think to have an accurate inventory would be a better time for us to talk about those things. Although the Stocklosa has bought Chrome carts, there's many other schools that have done that. We did that research 2 years ago. They're $5,000, I think, less than buying other kinds of hardware carts. And so we have done a lot of that. We've used a lot of Title I funding to support that because of the online testing. So I really feel like before we have a meeting to discuss these kinds of issues, I really would like to have an inventory that's accurate. So that was the delay.
You all set, Mr. Hoey?
I'd like one more thing.
No, finish your.
All right, thanks, Mayor. I just don't see the harm in having a subcommittee. I really don't. Just to bring in all our tech staff and listen to them, just to hear what they have to say. Where are we and where we have to go? I know you're doing that, but I think in a subcommittee it might be helpful to do it. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following up on that, so I'm gathering from your response that we really don't have a handle as to how old some of our hardware is. It's true? Yeah. I would have thought
We do. Our
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
Our tech department, we every year look at that. We look at ratios, student ratios. But the issue is that as time goes on, some of the hardware doesn't work. We cannot afford the maintenance, and we cannot afford replacement parts. And so as of the summer, we had an accurate inventory because we spent a lot of time going out to buildings when students weren't in session. But we need another accurate inventory before we meet to discuss where we're headed. And so this work that we will do between now and the end of May, which will result in the 3-year report, long-range plan, will be accurate.
But my question is like not so much what's working and what's not working, but age of our hardware.
Yes, we have that as well.
Okay, because I think in the computer world, if it's older than 5 years old, it's like pretty close to useless to what's going on today. So I think I agree with that.
We wouldn't be able to successfully do the testing, the online testing, without having the accurate platform to be able to host the assessments.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Thank you. Next, we have business office update.
Yes, thank you. I'd ask Assistant Superintendent Turner to share with you the latest updates.
The business office update includes financial audit findings, food service updates, budget updates, and miscellaneous follow-up. The city just had their financial statement audit, and there were 2 audit findings relevant to the school department and they were identified when we did the internal review and the forensic audit. Those two areas, or the two findings, were the bad bill situation and the food service transfers. This is a perfect example of why Mr. Nutter's suggestion of having the city staff present at our meetings and vice versa. It gives us an opportunity to explain it from the different perspective. If you can recall, at the city council meeting back in September, they mentioned that we had an $80,000 surplus, and now the audit report shows that we overexpended our budget. And it's all about presentation. Those bad bills that we did not get to pay, even though we're paying it with this year's money, the auditor will say that we overexpended the budget. And again, that will look like we had a surplus one minute and then we overexpended the next. And this would be an opportunity for us to explain to the city council if we did present and cross-present, I should say. It would give us that opportunity to explain that. So so the first one is the bad bill corrective action. In your packet, we had to give a corrective action plan for each of the findings. So for the bad bill corrective action, if you look under the section that states, I'm trying to find it right here, but it's under the section where on each of the corrective action plans, the bottom section will state what we're going to do to correct it. The bad bill corrective action includes we're going to do consistent and early review of open purchase orders so that we can close those that don't or will not be spent. We're going to have active communication with vendors to get bills early. We're going to seek out the bills so that they don't trickle in months later after our excess cash has flowed into the city's free cash. And third, we're going to monitor all accounts each month to avoid overspending and underspending. The second finding was on the food service. The corrective action that I stated in the packet was to pay back the $2.2 million per the memo to the Department of Ed, and I did include that in your packet as well to remind you of what the plan was, and two, to minimize offsets in the future to allow healthy growth in the revolving funds. Any questions on the financial audit findings? Okay. The next item is Aramac, the Aramac updates. They give us a weekly update, and it includes interesting things that they're doing, like summer meal preparation, how they're partnering with Project Bread and Merrimack Food to include, to offer programs during the summer, and they want to expand to a dinner option. It also includes their breakfast after the bell program, where now we have to offer students breakfast even if they get there after breakfast. It could be through a kiosk or food in the main office, things of that sort. And it includes the Cook's Roundtable and all of the topics that they discuss at those. Then the next item is the budget update. What I did with the budget update is I included a facility section that just explained that facilities, the actual expenses in previous years looked lower than it really was because they were offsetting it, like the example that in Mr. Nutter's motion. If we were transferring cost from the facility accounts to hit these revolving accounts, the expenses look lower than they really were. So you have that issue. Then second, when you budget with hoped for dollars, which is why they say we should not use revolving funds, when you budget with the hoped for dollars, even though the budget says there's $100,000 in there for facility supplies, we don't have the cash. The cash is not there. So facilities is facing some trouble. The other issue with not having enough cash is unexpected cost. The brakes went on the courier van. We didn't have money, and we had to pay $500. We did not have $500, so we had to cancel a purchase order in another line to free up that money to pay for it. Other unexpected costs that happen is we have an elevator issue at Lowell High. That has to be addressed. And then we had PA system issues. If we're doing a lockdown, we need a PA system. So these unexpected costs, the budget, as you know, I brought the budget down to as low as we could, and that we would go through this together instead of holding cushions like we usually would. So the unexpected cost and not having enough cash in the use of facilities is very concerning. There's a couple of things we can do. What we're currently doing is bartering between the schools. We're literally going from one school to get light bulbs to bring it and get garbage bags and vice versa. So we're making it happen, and we will get through it by doing the bartering. And we're going to do creative things that we all may have faced in our own homes, right? We're buying half of the wax instead of the full amount of the wax just to start the summer, and on July 1st, we'll buy the second half. So these are the type of things we're doing. But I have included a reduction to this revenue in my projection, so that it would, I'll explain it as we go, but, so we're going to reduce the expected cash from use of facilities. The projections that I've been sharing with you recently on in-district, on transportation, in-district transportation has, the numbers have increased by 80 since December. The out-of-district transportation student counts has increased by 18. Homeless students have increased by 49 since December. And earlier, I think your question about the homeless kids, the permission to enter, I believe your question was, why are we transporting kids, 5 kids, to Everett? These were Everett students that are now placed in a Lowell shelter. And because the parent wants them to continue to go to their home school, we have to share that cost. These are all the unexpected items that we face, and why I think it's important to bring this information to you each time we present, so you can see how we're constantly faced with things we can't anticipate. So like I said, the projections on transportation, the reason I have not changed the transportation number, despite all of these increases, is because we have absorbed kids onto the local routes, and then out of district, we did increase that, but some of the kids remain the fiscal responsibility of the district until the end of June, so we've lucked out with that. And as far as the homeless students, even though we have seen an increase to the cost, as you see in the permission to enter, I have not adjusted the overall transportation figure yet, because we're still expecting a homeless reimbursement on this. So far, we're holding out. The projection on the sick leave buyback, now we have 36 paid, 25 left that have declared their intent to retire. As you know, we had reduced the budget to $700,000. We adjusted it back up to 1.1. Currently, our liability is 1.5. So we're $400,000 in the hole as of today. So, and that could go up, of course. Anyway, so overall, even we're looking at a $500,000 shortage right now. That's after the sick leave buyback deficit is considered. That's after reducing the loss of facility offset that we were hoping to get, because we don't have it. We don't have that cash. Substitutes, day-to-day substitutes, despite the limitations in the reducing the amount that we have allowed, we're looking at a $250,000 deficit in that account. Staff searches, the recent staff searches, that was unexpected, so that has a deficit account. Bad bills not covered. Again, we thought that we had an $80,000 surplus, so when I first submitted that memo to the CFO, I thought we were asking for our money, because I thought it was just our surplus flowing into free cash. When I had asked the city auditor and the city CFO, how can I get that, or can I pay the bills then, when I first started, they said no, it had to flow through the free cash certification, and after the free cash certification, we would then be able to request the funds. So if we're not going to get that, then that's part of our deficit. But luckily, the good news is, I saved the good news for last, we did get additional hurricane relief money, and that was approximately $412,000, which has offset this, not the 500, the 500,000 shortage is after the $400,000 additional revenue. We also have a savings on tutors. Just as I said at the beginning, people call in sick and things like that, and we weren't allowing them to make it up. Other ideas that we can do to offset this $500,000 is we can limit subs. When we work on grants, and our grants are 2-year grants, this is what we pay 9%. MTRS staff, so administrators and teachers, we pay 9% for MTRS. when you put MTRS staff on a grant, the grant charges you 9%. So let's say your special ed grant alone, if instead of putting teachers on that grant, we put non-MTRS staff, we'll free up $109,000 right there, a couple of $100,000 in Title I. So when we do the grants this time, we're writing them differently. We're not going to put these staff so we can free up $300,000. That may not give us immediate relief because we're at the end of the year, but we're still going to try it. Other than that, we don't have anywhere left to cut, except, like I said, trying to limit the subs and things like that. If we get to the point where we don't have anything, we're going to do what we originally had in the budget, which is to have to pay some of the sick leave buyback next year, not now. So that's the budget update. Any questions?
Thank you for that detailed questions. Thank you.
Okay. And then just the last piece is miscellaneous follow-up, which is the the Chief Human Resource Officer search. We did have 1 day of searches, and we have, 1 day of interviews, and we do have the second day on Monday. After that, they'll make a recommendation to us with finalists, and we'll interview them and choose. And the last thing is we're doing a copier service, and we're researching our options for copier service. So if you hear anything, we do have 3 different copy companies like Xerox, Ricoh, and Konica going out to the schools and giving us our options, just so that we have some competition and different quotes. But I just wanted you to know that because we've been with the same person for 20, not the same person, but the same company for 20 years. So when you have that, sometimes it's good to know in advance that this is what we're doing. But any questions? Okay.
Very good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lowell Telemedia Center proposal, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Doherty had made a motion for us to investigate working with the Lowell Telemedia Center, and Ms. Desmond and I did meet with the director, and at this time, based on their needs for facility space and staffing, that we're not able to. We came to a consensus that at this time it would not be something that we could go into. If Ms. Desmond has anything further to share.
Financially, it would require us providing them the PEG funding of $250,000 to be able to staff. And then the other concern that the superintendent and I had was they would need the high school studio space to run their programming, and because of the requirements of query checks and the access to the studio being in the high school and having to go through the high school, it would not be feasible at this time.
Ms. Martin.
Thank you, and thank you for following up on Ms. Doherty's request. I recognize, and I think we all recognize the budget reality that we've been living in. So I wasn't surprised to get this report that we weren't going to be able to do this moving forward. I am hoping as we get into budget season that it is something that we can discuss again. It certainly was something during our last go-round that I know there was real commitment in wanting to see this program continue, the partnership with LTC, specifically the educational opportunities that are available to our students because of this. Literally millions of dollars that have been invested in this studio that are not being effectively used right now simply because we don't have appropriate staffing and programming to take advantage of it. You want a perfect example, we had 2 phenomenal spotlights on excellence tonight. Having the kids here, spectacular. Having the Knowledge Bowl students, having the Generation Citizen, and the kids represent beautifully. Every other year before this, we would have seen them in action. We would have seen the LTC produced, Lowell High School produced video of the Knowledge Bowl as it's happening. seeing the questions, seeing the kids performing. Same with the Generation Citizen. It serves two purposes in that it really does capture the real, some of the real amazing things that happen in our district that we want to be able to point to. And then, just as important, it's giving our actual students, our high school students, the opportunity to learn some amazing skills that potentially could become a career for them in the long term. So I just think this is a significant loss for us. It's unfortunate. I appreciate the report, and I understand and support the recommendation. I just really hope as we kind of get into budget season that we're going to have a few more options to bring this back.
I think we're the only school in the valley that doesn't have this.
No,
TV.
it's disappointing.
really missing
Our
it.
students deserve it. Our community deserves it.
Yeah. Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the effort, I really do, and the opportunity for you to sit down and meet with LTC. But I was surprised to see how much money they were looking for, because if we could get $250,000 from the city, which the city gets in PEG money, if we could get that, we could run the program the way we have run the program. Lowell Educational TV. Channel 20, our kids with our teachers up at the studio at the high school. So it wasn't offering, for me, I didn't see it as a viable option for us. And what were we going to sacrifice? Worrying about the Corey check piece and where our students are going to really get the hands-on opportunity, the real educational component, which has always been so much a part of why the studio is so great for our kids and for the high school. And, as Ms. Martin said, it was a real loss for us that we didn't get to see the Knowledge Bowl kids in action. We've always had that in the past. And, I realize the Comcast funding, perhaps is not what it used to be, but I think that the city is pocketing a couple of $100,000 that should be being siphoned back into those community programming. Because if we're only getting $108,000 and LTC is getting $300,000, there's a couple of $100,000 in funds that's not being used for community programming, which is what it is intended to be used for. So while this is very disappointing, because I thought we could cobble together some kind of agreement that would be a win-win for both groups, this is not that. So thank you for your effort, though.
Mr. Tucotto?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can recall several years ago, Channel 25 was at the high school. I believe you were still headmaster at the time. You were head.
Whatever.
And this Channel 25 reporter you brought him up to the TV studio, and he was just blown away by what we had at the time. But now, all of that equipment is really not functioning, and so we just have a room with a bunch of dead equipment, and we can't even access the truck that has all this brand new equipment because it can't talk to anything in the studio. It's a shame. It really is, and so we wouldn't be able to work with them even if we wanted to.
Thank you. Mr. Nutter?
I find myself in a strange place here because I'm about to defend the city. But to their credit, not only have they outfitted the van, but they have provided the money that we need to get the servers at the studio. So we will be getting the servers, and they will be getting fixed, and they will be tying them in. But it's, and I was shocked at the proposal because one of the things was LTC, by moving, would save a huge amount of rent. And we don't even have the space for them that they required, but they would be a huge rent. The problem is, there's a proposal before the FCC right now that is, if it goes through, our PEG funding is really going to suffer, because what the proposal is by the cable industry is that instead of being able to fund a percentage of the cable box fees, that they would say, well, we're giving you this channel, and this channel is worth $200,000. So, we're going to count that against what we owe you. Or this channel is worth $300,000, and we're going to count that against what we owe you. And if that goes through, it's going to also severely limit the whole programming and the whole way we know of LTC. So, the challenge for this program, unfortunately, make it tougher before it gets better.
The thing, and I'll add to that, I mean, also Comcast, the amount of money they give into the city is being reduced because their income has been reduced due to the different type of competitions that are out there now. And we're looking for having another company come in to establish a citywide internet program. And once that's established, that's going to greatly impact that. So I think one of the things I would ask the administration to do is start looking at other alternative ways of funding this project, and not, we just can't depend on the PEG money. It's not a reality anymore. And Mr. Nutt is correct on the changing on the rules. I mean, because the competition in that field is unbelievable. And, let's face it, I mean, many adults, many citizens in the city, if there's any one question they give to the city council is their Comcast bill. They want explanations of the 8 or 9 pages of billing that you get and the tax structure and what have you. And they want us, many of us citizens, they're looking for help. But I think our TV program is important to us, and I think we have to look at other sources, means of funding a good program. So thank you. Any other discussion? All right, next is report on motions.
Yes, this is our regular report of motion for your consideration and comment.
Any issues? Enrollment figures?
Regular enrollment figures for your review.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the report of the superintendent 9-1 through 9-11, excluding 9.3 as a report of progress. By Mr. Dakota, second by Ms. Doherty. Next, we have a resolution of the school committee to support Massachusetts Senate Docket 101. Want to make sure that we have the letter going out, a motion to approve the resolution from the school committee. I need a roll call. A motion to accept. Mr. Dakota, second by Mr. Hoey. Roll call.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Yes.
Mr. Lay?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
7 yeas approved.
I just want to say, that regarding the Senate docket bill, though, Senator Kennedy did bring me into the meeting. His presentation really outlined the financial issues of the city, where, and especially the school department, money's lost, and he did a very good job in that. My approach was not to talk as the mayor, but as the former headmaster of the high school, and what, we'll say, shortfall fundings and what would occur. You'd have your good programs, all of a sudden the money's not available, you kill the programs. Money's available, you start new programs that work, no money the following year. So it's really about the consistency of the budget. In fact, one of the senators came up to me and wanted to do an article with me in Commonwealth Magazine, and we're gonna probably do that, because there is, I'll tell you, I was impressed with the number of people down there really pushing, especially for gateway cities. And our presentations have been very good, and these letters and the work that the school committee is doing is helping a great deal. So we just have to, keep pushing the envelope. It's about survival. Next, we have the food service management contract. Motion to approve the food service management contract with Aramac Educational Services, LLC. Need a motion to accept by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Mr. Nutter. Any issues, questions? Roll call.
Mayor Samaras?
Yes.
Mr. Dakota?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Oh, no, excuse me, no.
Mr. Lay?
No.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Nutter?
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nay, approved.
Motion to adjourn? By Ms. Martin, seconded by Mr. Nutter. Thank you.
By Ms. Martin, second by who?